Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. For our guest today, I have Christopher Filipiak from Asheville, North Carolina, and he's a sales consultant and coach for CEOs. And for the audience, if you're interested in the questions about hiring a sales team, fixing your revenue problem, CEO, mindset, Christopher is the guest for you today, and I'm really happy to dive into the show. So, Christopher, welcome.
Hey, Chris, it's so good to be here with you. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Yeah. Briefly introduce yourself, and I'm excited to dive into the questions.
Yeah, that sounds great. My name's Christopher Filipiak. I am a sales consultant and coach that helps CEOs succeed at their own sales work.
Oh, excellent. And what was your journey? How did you get started? What made you found and do what you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. I grew up just outside of Detroit, Michigan, and fell in love with cars as most people in the Motor City do. And so I decided to go to school to be an engineer and ended up working for Ford Motor Company for many years as an engineer, helping build F-150s and Mustangs. And I love that work. But I would always say in my performance evaluations, I want to be with the people and the money. And engineers that didn't compute. And so I figured that was an opportunity for me to go back to grad school and get my MBA, and also a chance to move out of Michigan and down to North Carolina because the weather's much better down here, as well as some other reasons. So after grad school, Chris, I ended up working for a marketing, sales, and data consultancy, consulting into Fortune 500 companies. And so I really started to see the difference between the level of sophistication and sales operations and process at Ford Motor Company compared to the small mid-market, small enterprise company that I was working for. So I learned a lot from that experience. And then coming out of that, I started my own consulting firm in 2017, really working with going around to the CEOs that I knew and say, hey, can I sell for you on a part-time basis? I called it business development as a service at the time. And from there, that really helped me learn how to set up my own sales operations, my own sales enablement to be able to sell for multiple companies simultaneously successfully. And what I noticed is that those businesses that I was selling for were really lacking some fundamental pieces in their sales operations that would make everything work much better for them. So from that, I started helping them build out their sales systems, their sales operations, helping them build out their sales teams. And I had mixed success with building out their sales teams. And that was an interesting insight. And then I started on my own journey into mindset and understanding what was going on with me internally that was creating the results that I saw externally. And because I was having so much growth in my own awareness and results by working on my own mindset, I said, hey, I got to start to bring this to the CEOs that I was working with. And that brought me up to about COVID times, a little bit after COVID. And about that time, I started to do some bench work for a much larger consulting firm. And within the period of about a year, I had worked with over 150 professional services businesses, marketing agencies, consulting firms, really to help assess and understand what was going on with their sales operations, and then write scaling roadmaps for those businesses. And one of the things that I found through that work and through my own market research is that a lot of the time the sales teams did not work out. Founders, CEOs would hire salespeople, and then they would end up firing those salespeople. And another thing, when I wrote the pro formas, the financial pro formas and projections, when we looked at the revenue goals, we found that a significant portion or all of those revenue goals could be accomplished by the CEO being involved in sales and business development in a very short amount of time. So I really wrapped my business around supporting CEOs to be successful with their own sales work, because I think they are the easiest, fastest, most profitable way to drive revenue within a business, but they need some help to do that because they have so much on their plate. And so that's been the focus of my business over the last couple of years.
Mhm. Yeah, and one of the things you talk about is this idea is you talk about why hiring a sales team won't fix your revenue problem and what will. So what are your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah. So when you look at making sales, like sales comes down to a few fundamental things. It's really about creating and having conversations, and then having some fundamental pieces, some fundamental workflows in place. And so where a lot of business owners and CEOs go wrong is they want to hire salespeople or to fix something that's not working in the business fundamentally. Like maybe your market is off, or maybe your offer is off, or your messaging is off, or you have a sales process that doesn't result in you creating and having those sales conversations. So what I saw in my experience is CEOs would bring in salespeople to help scale revenue when they hadn't looked at the fundamentals underneath the business on what was required to actually enable a salesperson to be successful. So it's a two-step process. You have to make sure that the business itself is sales ready. And then once your sales system is working, you can bring in salespeople to help scale that. But if you bring in salespeople to help drive something that's not working, you're going to have a really bad day. The other challenge is if the business doesn't want to grow enough revenue to properly compensate the sales team at the level required to have a functional and performant A-level sales team, a lot of times the financials won't work out, right? Quick example of that is that if you need to pay your sales team 10 to 20% on revenue, which may be high, may be low, it's all relative, but you're only doing 10% margins, that doesn't work out. Like the math doesn't work out. So those are the two areas where I see sales teams not fixing the business or the revenue challenge, is that they can't outsell some fundamental problem in the business because the business isn't sales ready, or the math. The business hasn't done the math and figured out how to compensate the sales team and still turn a profit within the business. Yeah.
Interesting. And you have a sales playbook for the CEO and 5 daily habits to grow your business faster. So what is that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think the daily habits they really come down to creating clarity on what you want. I talk about this idea of cause and effect. There's this law of cause and effect, right? And it basically says that we live in a world of cause and effect, and effects have specific causes, and causes create specific effects. And so for whatever effect you want, whatever result you are looking at when it comes to business, the cause of that result is going to be your mindset, your strategies and tactics, and your activity. Okay. So when we look at the habits, the 5 habits, the first one is creating clarity on what it is you want. That's the most important thing. So it's going, hey, what are the things that what are the things that I want and desire today? So you create clarity on that. And then you understand how to have the right mindset, right? So what is the mindset that you're bringing into your day? Third is, what are the strategies and tactics that I need to do? And then there's the activity portion going, am I going to actually do the strategies and tactics that I selected? So am I going to do the behavior? And then the last thing is, once you have that all figured out, is you layer that stuff onto your calendar, and then you just do the things that are required to create the result that you want. And I think if you do those things every day, right? Clarity on what you want, the right mindset, the right strategy and tactics, activity, and then use your calendar as a tool, you're going to create results in a very quick way. And most importantly, Chris, is that they're going to be the results that you actually want.
Yeah. So then my follow-up question for you is, you mentioned you were working a lot on mindset and you said you have a system or a playbook for working less and selling more. So how is that different than the 5 habits and mindsets in the previous discussion?
Well, I think the way that it's different is that it's within that mindset habit, right? So mindset, like we all think, we all feel, we all have a human body, and understanding how to operate that is a skill within itself. Mindset is a habit, one of those 5 habits, but what is actually mindset, and what is the mindset that enables you to make more sales with less effort? And what is the awareness and the feeling in your body? What are the thoughts you're thinking in your mind? What are you feeling in your body? And what are you doing with that stuff? Because whatever your current mindset is, whatever your current thoughts and beliefs are, and whatever your current feeling is in your body, determine the results that you create. That's the primary driver of everything that we create as humans. And one of the things that really will enable you to make more revenue with less effort is leveling up your own self-worth, which is something that we want to be doing all the time, and is where a lot of my clients tend to struggle. And I know no CEO shows up and goes, hey, I want to improve my self-worth. It's something that's running under the surface. But if your results aren't at the level that you desire and you're not making progress towards them as quickly as you want, then there's probably something internally going on that needs to shift. And that can show up in different ways depending on the individual and the human. The other thing, and we see it today, Chris, with all the noise that's coming in from social media, it's very easy to get triggered and go into fear, worry, doubt. And so you want to have some skills and some tools to help your body metabolize and work through those emotions so that you can get back to focusing on what it is you actually want and desire, and lining up that cause and effect relationship so you can create that result quickly. So that's how mindset is different than those 5 habits. It's like a skill within those 5 habits.
Interesting. I'm curious, you mentioned a very interesting terminology. You said metabolize the emotions. And so what are some of the behaviors or things that you do to metabolize or work through and process those difficult emotions?
Yeah. So we all have like emotions, right? Sad, mad, glad, disgust, fear, right? There's 88 total feelings, emotions, like as Brené Brown defines. And every day those emotions are running in our body, like they're physical sensations in our body. So they're thoughts in our mind and they become physical sensations in our body. And they get trapped in our nervous system. So they may be in your stomach, they may be in your spine, they may be in your skin, they get in there. And what happens, what most people do, is they keep reinforcing and tying up emotion within their body. So they think thoughts, they feel it in their body, they don't do anything with it, right? And then their body doesn't feel good. It re-triggers the thought and you get in this loop, right? And the problem with being in that loop is that's where you create from. You create from that emotion. Like we create from based on what we create from our feelings. Some of those feelings we're consciously aware of, and some happen at a subconscious level. So in order to metabolize that, there's lots of different. The first thing is to be aware, the mindset skill. Oh, I'm in a human body. I have feelings. What am I going to do with that when it shows up? Because I work with CEOs who will go weeks in a state of overwhelm or anxiety or fear or worry. And it's, if you go weeks from that, you're going to create from that self. So the first thing is to be aware that I'm in a human body. I have feeling. I create from that feeling, and my feeling isn't what I want. Okay, I need some different strategies and tactics. A lot of the strategy and tactics that CEOs use and most people use, because it's what we were taught, is just to work harder. Oh, I'm just going to work harder, right? I'm just going to work my way out of it. But there's some better ways to do it. One of the simplest ways to do it is just to move. One of the ways you can do it, which kind of ignores it but doesn't really get at it, is to do things like move your body, go outside, sunshine, take care of your body, exercise. You could do things like yoga or meditation or listen to music or dance. And some of that will help move the energy. What I do with my clients most frequently, though, is I help them look at and uncover what the core feelings and the core fears are within themselves, and then give them some tools to help move that energy. And also I have some methodologies and some skills about really how to unlock and metabolize those feelings within the body. That's how you do it. And I think the more you do that, the more you know how to process, metabolize, be with those emotional states. The quicker you can do that, the more you can get back to what it is you actually want and start to create emotional states that are in alignment with what it is you actually want and desire, and learn some skills. So it's a two-step process. You want to take care of both sides. You want to take care of the side that is triggered or feeling, have some skills to deal with that, because that stuff is in your body. And then you want to have a skill set around what are some new thoughts, what are some new emotional states that I need to develop that will allow me to quickly add revenue to my business, make sales, acquire the things that I want.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. And then it's quite interesting because I was having lunch with a colleague, and she's a yogi practitioner, and she was describing how like one class, or someone in the class just started breaking down crying. So I guess that's a way of emotional release. To me, it struck me as very odd, but it's from what you're describing now, it makes more sense and is more clear.
Yeah. Kids do it great, right? Like kids are great at moving emotion, right?
Yeah.
They'll yell, they'll scream, they'll cry. They're amazing. But we forget how to do that, and it becomes less socially acceptable to cry in public. But it's such an important skill, like move it. And that's just your body moving that energy. You'll see it in animals all the time, right? So what animals will do, like if you observe nature, if a rabbit is being attacked or chased by a wolf, right? If the rabbit gets away, what does it do? It shakes its body, and then it goes on. So that's the rabbit. Dogs do it too. That's nature shaking off the emotion and letting it move out of their nervous system. As humans, we need to relearn how to talk about emotion and to move feeling and emotion in our body.
Interesting. Yeah, really fascinating. And so to round it out, I love this idea because you teach CEOs to more confidence, clarity. And I think that segment where you're talking about metabolizing emotions and moving the energy is really key. And so what is your idea or final thoughts on becoming stoppable? And what, like, once CEO get this new mindset and they have a sales and playbook and they got their sales skills dialed in, how can they take their business to the next level?
Yeah. So again, it's around those three pieces. It's about your mindset, your skill, your mindset skill, your strategies and tactics. And you want to make sure that those fundamental pieces are in place and you're always improving those. That's the idea of being a sales ready organization and going, okay, business is built on cause and effect. And if I can get the right pieces in place, the right strategies and tactics in place, then I can easily create the result that I want. A lot of times you can think of sales as a system of systems. And if there's something missing within your sales system, the whole thing doesn't work. So you need someone with some experience and know-how that has worked with dozens of businesses and looked at the sales operations to understand what pieces need to be in place and which ones you're just wasting your time on. I help my clients save a ton of time, not by just helping them with their sales work, but by going, hey, you can stop doing that. You can stop doing that. You can stop doing that, right? These are things that aren't actually a cause of what it is you want. And when you have those two places, the key to becoming unstoppable is the activity piece, is doing those things every single day and improving, being your word, putting those things in place, and really learning a skill set around creating what it is you want whenever you want it, and being consistent with your mindset and consistent with your strategies and tactics. And if you do those two things, you can create anything you want really quickly.
Interesting. If people listening to this and they really resonated with your experience, expertise, and wanted to connect with you, learn more from you, how could they do that?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is and find out what I'm up to, how I think about sales and revenue, is to check out my website. It's ChristopherFilipiak.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn.com/Christopher Filipiak. I'm active over there and I'm very easy to get in touch with.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. I really enjoyed talking with you, and especially on that mindset and processing emotions. That was really interesting. And thanks so much for coming on, and keep up the great work.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Chris. I hope this was super valuable for your audience, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.